It's a very quiet afternoon as always. Since I can't go outside as myself, I have to match schedules with Mion when I go shopping. I've gotten used to it by now, so it's no longer a hassle. Because of this, I naturally have to buy things in bulk. Today, I shuttled between shops in my home.
あれは買った、これも買った。ああ、そうだ。今日って100円セールの日じゃなかったっけ？忘れてた。
Being in a good mood, I spun around with my arms spread out. I felt like a little whirlwind. My arm hit a motorcycle parked on the sidewalk. It obviously wasn't there. It obviously wasn't where it was supposed to be.
もう、何こんなとこに止めてるの誰？
I give it a kick with no hesitation. There were 3 motorcycles lined up there in a row. Hold on. This is what happened in chapter 2. This happened in Watanagashi. With Keiichi, like, bumping into one of these while walking with Mion or something. The bikes fell over. The biker gang members came out. They got really fucking pissed. And then we basically told them, hey, fuck off, as they got surrounded by members of the village. They all fell like dominoes, yeah. It was a beautiful sight. This is fun, I thought. Being in such a good mood made me leave my guard down. I didn't realize that the owners of the motorcycles were right nearby. They looked pretty scary. They grabbed me by the neck and dragged me into a dark alley. They called me all kinds of names. Everything was happening too quickly for me to grasp what was going on. Jeez. Also music. Good stuff. Whoa. They really can't talk properly. I didn't have a clue what they were saying. I had to translate their alien tongue into normal human words in order to understand. We are very upset because you knocked down our motorcycles. You should immediately pay for the repair and compensation. Yeah, that was probably it. That's our offer, what do you say? We'd be happy to listen to your opinion. Something like that?
ああ、ごめんなさい。さすがにそろそろ翻訳不能かも。
I know what they're trying to say, but somebody has to warn them about the way they park their motorcycles. It wouldn't be fair to those who obey the rules if there were no punishment for those who disobey them. This is an accident, but it must also be God's will. But God, you can use me to punish these guys, but how will you compensate me later? I heaved a huge sigh. Of course, I wasn't afraid in the situation at all, because it wasn't a dangerous one for me. These 3 guys were yelling at the top of their lungs at a girl, they didn't look good doing it, and they had too many disadvantages. First, there were 3 differences in gender and in the number of people. Even if I did something wrong as men shouting at a woman, it didn't make them look like they were in the right. Added to that, there were 3 of them. It already looked like it was going to get violent. Second, the location, taking a girl into a dark, narrow alleyway, is already a bad idea, and on top of that, they're asking for money, not just an apology. Thanks to these facts, the public will be on my side, so this was a fight they couldn't possibly win. The only way for them to win would be to take my money before somebody finds out. Considering that, taking me to this narrow, secluded alleyway might have been a smart move, since fewer people will find out about the situation. I knew how slim their chances of winning were. From the very beginning, they had picked the wrong girl. I'm Mion Sonozaki now. It'd be foolish to mug her in Okinomiya. Soon enough, the people of Hinamizawa would notice me and gather around. They don't spare mercy for their enemies, no matter what. The punks didn't know this area well. If they did, they'd have known how silly it was to rob Mion. Plus, the alleyway isn't always as empty as they assumed. The side street is a shortcut which local people frequently use on their way home. In the late afternoon, many people will be passing through here. The time had almost arrived. If I held off a little bit longer, the street would soon be filled with people. Then the punks would have to go away. I didn't have to do anything. I just had to wait in order to win. This was a simple fight like that. While they could hurl abusive language at me, or lift me up by my collar, they weren't actually going to resort to violence. cheers to the educational system for ingraining the ladies first mindset. Does it actually say ladies first? Okay, they added the quotes here. But yeah, it doesn't say, actually, let me double check. Pretty sure that does say ladies first, but my katakana reading isn't the bestest at the moment. Let's see. So that does say... yes, that does say ladies first. Okay, just double checking. Anyway, but as a wicked person, I wanted to toy with them a bit, even though I could win this by waiting. I wanted to paint them as even more villainous and drive them into a corner that would be even harder to talk their way out of. That demonic desire was rearing its horns. To put it plainly, I'd only need to act as their poor, helpless victim a little further. Like the pathetic, pitiful, tragic heroine everyone wants to sympathize with. In a case like this, I shouldn't start crying immediately, because they get nervous and draw back. If it were a truly threatening situation, that would work, but I needed something different here. I pretended to be strong at first. In fact, I thought, why don't I challenge them? And eventually, I'd start trembling, my voice would fade, and I'd get tears in my eyes. It'd be even better if I played the role of a strong girl who's slowly giving into fear. Mion and I are probably the only ones who are capable of pulling that kind of stuff off. Well, I'm probably better than her.
そんなにしつこく言わなくてもいいでしょ。悪かったって言ってるじゃないですか。
I talked back with a little hesitation. Am I getting tears yet? Yes. By the way, I've heard men can't shed tears on command. I feel sorry for them. The three punks faltered a bit due to my sudden change in attitude, but they soon started yelling at me again. I had to keep it going. That way they blatantly looked like they were picking on a helpless girl.
もう許してください。
なんだよこら。さっきまでの伊勢はどこ行ったんだよ、にゃろ。
He keeps saying yaro
そんなの
constantly.
だって。
そんな今頃泣くくれなら調子くれてんじゃねえんだよ、たくよ。
It looked like they were laying off a bit. Did I overdo it a little? It'd be boring if they let me go now. At that moment.
いい加減にしないか。
No fucking way. Oh, I guess I should have realized that, huh? See, I didn't picture Satoshi to be blonde. I thought he was just like a punk with like brown hair, right? But yeah, he's Satoko's brother. So of course he was gonna be blonde. Why didn't I realize that? But anyway, here's Satoshi. If you couldn't tell by his voice, by the way. And then also him getting a portrait. And then here's what he looks like in the console version. Oh god, that means they gave him a modern sprite. Ugh. Oh god. Oh, seeing this makes me cringe so fucking badly, man. Who thought this was good? Oh, the shading is fucking terrifying too. God, let's go back to normal. Here we go. Just a soulful image. I don't even know if this is a sprite that existed in the game already. By that I mean if this wasn't like added later, or maybe Ryukishi came back and was like, oh, I need to give him a sprite or something because one didn't exist. Anyway.
もう泣いているじゃないか。やめてやれ。
A boy around my age around your age. He sounds 12. Because remember, like, Shion and Mion, if I recall, are like are in a higher grade than Keiichi. Right? Which means, and this takes place the year before Keiichi, like, you know, like shows up. So if she's like around his age, or around her age, you know, his voice should sound a little bit more like Keiichi's. Like, this dude is probably like 13, 14, you know, he should have a slightly deeper voice. He shouldn't still sound like a 7-year-old. But anyway, that's me nitpicking. He was skinny. He looked weak. He looked younger than he probably was. He also looked smart. He bravely glared at the punks.
なこの野郎
Fuck out of you.
足んねえことしてったら邪魔するな
The punks turned away from me to face the boy instead. The boy looked a bit agitated when the punks started yelling at him. Or when the punks started yelling at him. They sure were ruthless. But the boy must have known that from the beginning. He must have known that he was going into a dangerous situation, yet he didn't hesitate.
黙ってたらわからんがな返事せんか返事
He must have wanted to shout back at them, but he probably never used that kind of language in his life. Oh, the trauma of living with his mother, the trauma of living with his aunt and uncle. That's with his father. What was it? I'm trying to remember with Satoko's situation. I think she tried to blame her dad. Her stepfather. She tried blaming her stepfather. That's who it was, because her father, I think, either left or died. I forget. Anyway. But he probably never used that kind of language in his life, so he couldn't have expressed his feelings out loud. He might have not even known what to say, so he just kept on glaring at them, to let them know that he wasn't going anywhere. The three punks, though, might have thought he was just lost for words in his fear. But I knew different. The boy was overpowering them with nothing but his will. The punks were losing, so they resorted to violence. Oh boy. They grabbed him and knocked him down. They hit, kicked, and tossed him around. It looked painful, but I knew. It was his victory. In the end, local passersby stopped the punks. They made no further fuss and just went away. The boy stood up. He was covered in dust. Oh boy. He smiled when our eyes met. He's not like... He doesn't have a black eye or anything. He doesn't have a bloody nose. He smiled when our eyes met and asked me if I was alright. He didn't look particularly okay himself, though.
あんたもよくもまあ勝てない喧嘩を買う人ですね。次からは勝てる算段がついてから喧嘩を買うことを深くお勧めしますけどね。
最初は迷ったよ。
He laughed, saying that he was watching from the beginning. That meant he had the option to walk away. But instead, he worked up the courage and stepped in.
そういうのは勇気って言わず、万有身の程知らずとも言うかな。
うん。ミオンは口が減らないね。助けてくれてありがとうくらい言ってくれよ。
Oh, that's right. He knows Mion.
泣いてたじゃないか。
別に泣いてなんかいません。あれはちょっとした演技で。
The second he called her Mion, her voice changed, I'm pretty sure. Because remember, Shion talks with a slightly softer voice. You know? She'll be like, Keiichi, what are you doing? Meanwhile, like, Mion is like, Keiichi! Like, you can hear, like, the difference in their tones, in their enunciations. And here, when he called her Mion, she's like, fuck, I gotta switch it up. This guy knows me.
いいよ、演技でも。
ちょっと信じてないでしょ。私が本当に泣き出すと思いますか？
Yeah, so you can hear, like, right, if I recall, Mion and Shion share the same voice actress. Because, I mean, it makes sense, right? They're like, alright, just be a little more tomboyish with one, be a little more girly with the other. And you can definitely hear, like, Mion's voice here.
思わないよ。天下御免の園崎ミオンが不良にいじめられて泣き出したなんて誰も思わないよ。
何を笑ってるんですか？全然信じてないでしょ。私が半泣きなんてするわけない。
信じるから信じるから。
I realized one thing. He must be one of Sis's friends. He didn't seem to realize I'm her twin. He thought it was Mion with a different hairstyle. Mion and I had to live separately since before we went to elementary school. Mion was in Hinamizawa. And I was in Okinomiya. I lived in a totally different environment from her. So it's not strange that people don't know me. Actually, only very few people know I exist. Shit. I almost told him I'm Mion, but I managed to stop myself. Shion shouldn't be here. He's from Hinamizawa. It wouldn't be good if he thought he saw Mion, a Mion lookalike in Okinomiya. Right? So I had to act like Mion. Dealing with him could be a little more difficult. Sorry. Dealing with him can be more difficult than handling those punks.
でもまあミオンにも少しは女の子らしいところがあったんで安心したよ。
なんだか妙に引っかかる言い方ですけど、つまりはどういう意味です？
ミオンのことだからなんだか珍妙な憲法でも使って瞬く間に撃退してしまうんじゃないかって期待してたね。だから泣き出した時は正直驚いた。
だからあれは泣き真似だったって言ってるじゃないですか。さっきから人の話ちゃんと聞いて。
He gently put his hand on top of my head and stroked it as if stroking a kitten. I could remember somebody doing that to me when I was little, but it had been quite a while since somebody stroked my head. I didn't know what to do. Why did it make me so embarrassed? My face reddened all at once and I couldn't say anything.
バカにしてます？ひょっとして。
I stuttered in embarrassment. He looked calm as if he was used to doing this.
なんでもいいよ。よかったじゃないか。
よかったって何がです？
無事で。
He smiled while he kept stroking my head. His smile looked divine. He wasn't going to stay for long. He already saved me from those guys after all.
じゃあ僕は行かなきゃならないからそろそろ行くね。
あ、うん。
I wanted to go through all the steps of meeting someone for the first time, but he didn't. As far as he was concerned, he just saved a friend from danger and wanted to leave quickly to avoid seeming pretentious. He and Mion must be friends who knew each other well. So I couldn't bring myself to ask, "What's your name?" Mion's friend smiled once again. His smile looked as refreshing as a clear blue sky. This time he smiled a bit mischievously.
安心しなよ。ミオンが泣いてたなんて誰にも言わないから。もっとも言ったところで誰も信じないだろうけどね。天下無双の委員長が泣いてたなんて絶対誰も信じない。
He patted the dust off of his butt once again. He walked back to the sunny main road away from the dark alley. Then he turned around.
じゃあまた明日。学校でね。
うん。学校で。
He disappeared into the brightly lit street. I continued to sit in the gloomy alleyway. I could no longer see him. I was just staring absent-mindedly at the bright light. That was the first time I met Satoshi-kun. Yeah, so just in case you didn't know it was Satoshi, there you go, confirmed. I'm not even allowed to walk freely under the sun. I met a boy on a sunny day. How come a perverse girl like me fall in love with his innocence? Notebook page 5.
そりゃあサトシだよ、サトシ。その特徴的な雰囲気と気安く頭を撫でる癖は間違いないね。
She says that as if, like, the possibility of it being anyone else could exist. That must be Satoshi. Like, no shit. Who's the other blonde boy in your class that's your age? Or close to your age? There is no one else. Who else has red eyes?
サトシくんって言うんだ。
Besides Satoko. The boy from earlier is called Satoshi Hojo. Sorry, Satoshi Hojo. Mion said that he's always daydreaming. So he didn't believe that he saved me at
普
first.
段はしっかり者の妹にいろいろと尻を叩かれてるな。
妹がいるんだ。
うん。妹はサトコって言ってね。なかなか面白いやつだよ。なかなか悪知恵が働くしね。そのくせ追い詰められると泣くし。 見てて退屈しない子だね。まあ最近はいろいろとあってね、ちょっと調子を落としてるけど。
Sister came up naturally in the conversation. I tried to soak up every scrap of information about Satoshi. Why? Why am I trying to ask so much about him? As I asked myself that, the feeling I got when he stroked my head came back to me. I must have been blushing.
もしもし、シオン？
あー、ごめん。聞いてる聞いてる。
そもそもね、サトコがおばと折り合いが悪いらしいんだよね。サトシは大人だからその辺はうまく立ち回ってるんだけどさ、サトコは嫌なことがあると素直に表情に出しちゃうからね。
What Sis told me was very interesting. She told me that the parents of Satoshi and his little sister are dead. Satoshi and Satoko are now living with their uncle and aunt. They don't seem like very respectable people. They're always fighting, and the uncle is cheating on the aunt. He mostly lives with his mistress. Satoshi and Satoko entered into that unwelcome environment. What surprises me the most is the fact that Satoshi's parents were the Hojo couple who were the leaders of the pro-dam activists. That fact must have added something to the situation. I don't know what kind of stance the uncle and aunt took during the dam conflict, but they must have taken some indirect blows. Yeah, especially to the head. Satoshi's parents died after bothering them so much, and even left them their children. Wait, what? Oh, sorry. The parents were bothering the kids. Anyway, the uncle and aunt obviously can't love those kids. Things have gotten worse this past year too. Women can be really nasty bullies. Sometimes it doesn't matter who they're bullying, even if it's a kid. On top of that, women tend to care less about propriety than men. Yes, propriety. As a result, Satoko seems exhausted with it all. I can imagine Satoshi bravely protecting his little sister. Just like when he saved me.
なら、サトシ君も普段は疲れてるってことになるのかな。サトコがおばにいじめられるたびに、きっとサトシ君は妹をかばってると思う。妹が疲れるのと同じくらい、サトシ君も疲れてると思うのは、私の考えすぎ？
どうだろうね。
Had I said something wrong? Mion sounded a bit taken aback. So that meant Mion can't tell how he's feeling, because he's always wearing that blank look. So she never considered it. How can she be that insensitive even though she's around him all the time? I was amazed to realize that.
そんな話はいいや。で、彼は普段はどんなことをしてるの？文系みたいだから読書とか好きなわけ？
想像に漏れずに普段は読書して過ごしてるよ。最近読んでる本はね、なんて言ったかな。
That she was gonna mention like a philosophy book or some shit. I continued asking about him, about what he likes, dislikes, what he thinks about. I asked Sis all of these questions because I wanted to know more about him. It was the first time I'd ever been interested in somebody. I didn't want to admit that I had feelings like that. Did I fall in love just because of a stroke on the head? Am I stupid or what? When I remembered the feeling of his hand on my head, my heart feels tingly. I tried doing it myself, but it didn't feel the same. I'm stupid. What am I doing stroking my own head?
おねえ、私もうダメだ。バカになっちゃった。
何を突然気色悪い声で笑い出して。
おねえにはわかるまい、この気持ち。
When would I see him again? I felt as if my suffocating life had finally grown brighter. We're already at the halfway mark. Unless this is the end of the chapter. Okay, it's not. Because again, normally the way Higurashi ends chapters is when you reach the end of the day, in this case, nighttime, that's when it ends or gets ready to end. And then you get to that little like interjection or that little screen, and that usually means that it's over. But they've kind of been switching it up a little bit since chapter 3. The life I lived really was beginning to suffocate me. I couldn't go out freely, and I always had to make arrangements with Mion before going to work. I thought my life would improve after escaping from the school, but in reality, it wasn't that easy. It's not healthy to live like this for too long. Without any friends to hang out with, I felt like I was hibernating. I'd started to feel the dangers of falling into boredom. All I could think of now was Satoshi Hojo-kun's face. I'd only met him briefly, but my encounter with him had a great impact on my new life. I felt like something exciting was going to happen. Really, I was hyped up like a little kid. The more I thought about it, I realized I've been thinking about him a lot lately. This might be a crush. I felt a little ridiculous idolizing him in such a romantic way though. Then, out of the blue, I got a chance to see him again.
あれ
I saw a familiar face at the twilight in the park. He was sitting on the swing. He looked like he was zoning out or maybe deep in thought. He didn't notice me even though I was right in front of him. I reminded myself to speak and act like Mion before talking to him.
へい何やってんのこんなとこでさ。
ミオンか。びっくりしたな。
そんなに驚いてるようには見えないけどね。さっきからいたんだけど、ずっと気づかなかった？
そうなのかい。ごめん、気づかなかったよ。
He smiled self-derisively and shrugged. He looked depressed, like something was troubling him.
何か悩み事でも？聞いて楽になるものなら聞くし、力になれるものなら惜しまないけど。
いや、別に。
私はサトシ君には一個借りがあるからね。それとも何？おじさんじゃ力になれないと思ってるわけ？見くびられたもんだな。
別に。ミオンの力を借りたら意味がないことだからさ。
ほう。それは何？つまり私ごとき女の手は借りたくないってこと？
Thinking him unfair, I puffed up my cheeks in a sulky gesture. Satoshi noticed that and smiled.
違うんだよ、ミオン。僕に実力がなくて、ここ一番で打てなかったってだけのことなんだよ。
Oh, that's right. He's in the baseball team. I mentally rifled through all the information about Satoshi that Sis had given me. He doesn't look like much of an athlete, but apparently Satoshi belongs to a junior baseball team. They're called the Hinamizawa Fighters. I doubt he's very skilled since I didn't hear much about his contributions to the team. Maybe that's why he doesn't tell many people that he's a member. Given how down he felt as a result of messing up, given how down he felt as a result of messing up, though, he must be fairly dedicated. I deduced all that from what Sis told me and carefully chose my words so as to sound like her.
なんだ、そんなことで落ち込んでるわけ？
そんなことでって簡単に言ってくれるな、ミオンは。
Actually, we haven't seen I really should be swapping to show off the console sprites for the different faces that he makes. I keep forgetting to. I pat his back while chuckling. Satoshi would probably call me insensitive. I knew I should just listen to him rather than trying to cheer him up. Acting like Sis was probably the wrong thing to do in this case, but I had no choice. This was just how she'd react in the situation.
それなら落ち込むんじゃなくて、なお一層練習に打ち込んで次のチャンスを目指すのが適当ってもんでしょうが。こういう時は練習しかないよ、練習。まあサトシ君に相手のピッチャーに小細工をしてまで勝ちたいという執念があるなら、おじさんいろいろと協力できるかもしれませんけどね。
ずるしても何の意味もないよ。
What a face. And here's the console version of it. Satoshi hung his head after letting his regrets out with a big sigh. Surrender, defeat, resignation. We're all visible. Sorry. Jesus, I can't read today. Surrender, defeat, resignation. We're all visible in that gesture of his.
諦めがいいのか未練たらたらなのか。やっぱり男に生まれたからには一度くらいは晴れ舞台でスターになってみたいでしょう。
Satoshi grinned and said yes. And there he is with a smile. In the console version. He does look a lot older in the console version, so like this one does suit him a little bit more than this version, but that's okay. I mean, again, that's just youngins in this series.
もちろんヒーローを目指すのが花だけど。
And then here, like with an actual open smile. Except, you know.
それが目的で野球をやってるわけじゃないよ。純粋にボールを投げたり打ったりするのが楽しいからやってるんだよ。ミオンでもそういうのわかるよね。
おじさんはそういうのはあんまわかんないかな。私は結果が一番であるならどんな種目でも大好きだし一番になれないのに大好きなんてものはあんまりよくわかんないね。
ミオンらしい答えだな。
Oh, I should have shown his blushing face. Having realized that I'm trying to make him feel better, he laughed along. He didn't look depressed anymore. I guess he was just feeling down because of the game. He wasn't as depressed as I thought. Maybe I just jumped to conclusions when I saw him sitting alone in the park.
でもミオンは一番になるためにいろいろと努力をするからね。それは偉いと思うよ。
He smiled gently and stood up, then he started stroking my head. All of a sudden, I totally wasn't prepared for that. I thought this when he did this last time, but how can he stroke somebody's head so easily? I felt like I had turned into a little kid. Memories of kindergarten came to mind. My face must have been red. I felt embarrassed, but also like I was in heaven. Holy fuck, I can't read today. Satoshi stroked me as though petting a cat. I was blushing with my eyes closed. I felt helpless, like a girl being treated by the dentist with her mouth open and her eyes shut. Satoshi didn't seem to notice my feelings at all. He didn't seem to care. I hate him. With my eyes still closed, I waited for him to finish. He suddenly withdrew his hand.
じゃあ僕はそろそろ帰るよ。おばさんに野球の帰りに買い物をしてくるよう頼まれてるから。
My voice faltered. I was so embarrassed.
夕飯の買い物。
Oh god. The close-up jump scare. Holy shit, Satoshi. Oh god, that one's even worse. Oh. Like this is like one thing, right? Imagine this look. Oh. Holy fuck, that's scary as hell.
あれミオも買い物するんだ。お手伝いさんが全部やってくれるって言ってなかったっけ？
Also, hey Billy, thanks for stopping by. Shoot, I messed up. In the main Sonozuki house, the maids do everything. Therefore, Mion hardly goes grocery shopping, and she's bragged to some people about that. I should have known better. Still, it wouldn't be too hard to find an
町に
excuse.
遊びに来るつもりでいたから、たまには家事の真似事でもするかなって思って。買い物を私が引き受けてきたわけよ。お分かり？
ミオンにしては珍しいね。
Yeah, the manga gamer sprite is fine. Like Satoko's is also probably one of the most normal looking ones. But my god, are they still terrible in my opinion. Like the way they, my main issue is the way they do the eyes. Like the proportions, the face. Like my main problem with, let's see if it ever shifts back, I'll show it. I'll mention what I'm talking
そういう
about.
の めんどくさいって言って嫌がりそうなのに。
そういうのを余計なお世話って言います。頭撫でないで。
Satoshi seemed to be having fun with how embarrassed I'd get when he patted me. Anyway, I managed to talk my way out of it. He didn't seem to really care about the details. While walking with Satoshi in the shopping district of Kamishiki, it suddenly occurred to me. Why had I messed up? I'd known Mion would never go grocery shopping. What an amateurish mistake. Did I make that mistake when I was pretending to be Mion? No. I was probably speaking as Shion. I couldn't keep lying to myself. I had to just admit. It was simply because I wanted to spend as much time with Satoshi as possible. It was easy to see why I was so attracted to him. I'd found something intriguing in my boring life, and I didn't have to feel tense because he thought I was somebody else, etc., etc. His easygoing nature made him fun to be around, and his habit of petting people in the head was fun too. From these symptoms, I could tell I was embracing the feeling of love. I was just casually enjoying that feeling. It wasn't that I fell in love with him. I was just having fun. I could simply spend some fun time with Satoshi without having to think too much. Alright, let's see if this is okay. So this isn't a close-up. But if we if we look real quick, like if we look at the sprite for the console version, if you look at the shading on the shirt, it's very simple, right? If you look at the creases, like on the shoulders, on the parts where the shirt is tucked in, it's very simple. There's 1, 2, 3. There's 3 lines for the shirt being tucked in, ignoring the one down the middle. And then there's one little crease where the shirt kind of folds in the middle. And that's it. There's a little bit of a shadow going down, as you can see. And that's it. If you look at the armpit area, there's 1 on the left side and there's 2 on the right side. That's it. Those are all the creases on the shirt. If you look at the Manga Gamer one, it looks like this dude doesn't iron his shirt, right? His shirt is full of creases, is full of weird shadows all over the place. It makes no sense. It makes 0 sense why his shirt would be like this. And look at the bottom, like around his belt area. It doubles, like it folds twice. It's like creased twice near the bottom. It's like he's double muffin topping, which doesn't make any sense because this guy is like, you know, a stick. Like, I don't know what the fuck Manga Gamer was thinking, but this happens with all of their characters, with all of the clothing in every character in this game. Like just look at his shoulders again. If you look at the armpits, there's 2 creases on the left side, and there's 1 crease to the right. No, 1, 2, 3. Sorry, there's 3 creases on the right. But then there's so many shadows all over the place that it doesn't make any fucking sense. From a lighting perspective, from just an artistic perspective, it makes no sense. Look at his collar. Right underneath his collar on the right side, he's got 1, 2, 3 strokes, right? That doesn't make sense either. And then again, if you just keep going down, it's terrible. It's fucking gross, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. Again, like, the console one, I feel it's a little over detailed still, but compared to this, if you just look at the shirts, holy shit. And this happens with every character. It happens with, like, a lot of the male characters. The older male characters have so much muscle. It's so defined when they shouldn't have, like, muscle, if that makes sense. Like Oisan looks like a dude that has a beer belly, but that he works out every fucking day at the gym powerlifting. Like the muscles in his wrists and his hands are so well toned. It makes no sense. Same with his neck. Actually, I don't even think yeah, like here, he doesn't even have a neck. Like, it's not a detailed neck. You can see his collarbone, right? Here you can't see it, but you can see the details on his neck. How does that make sense? Like, here, I'll take a screenshot of it and I'll make it bigger. We have this part of his head, right? We have this bit, and then you have this. Then you have this little part right here. You see how underneath, like, or right above his collar on the right, there's like, you can barely see it, but there's a line going down that's supposed to depict like part of his neck. And there's a little shadow right there. Where the fuck is the shadow coming from? There's already a shadow next to it. You see that stroke by the left collar? This little bit? You see that little bit of shadow right here? You see how there's a highlight there? And then right above it and below it, there's a shadow? That's already 2 shades, right? Where the fuck is this one coming from? Where the fuck is that third darker like shadow coming from? It makes no sense. And again, this happens all the time with the manga gamer art. I know I'm nitpicking like crazy right now, but it's just so fucking stupid and I hate it. And I notice this shit like the average person will not, right? Because they don't, it doesn't matter. But it's just something that I notice and it bugs the shit out of me. Like I will see it from the corner of my eye and my eyes will immediately go to all those like imperfections and I hate it. Yeah, the manga gamer sprite problem dissemination. That's gonna be part of the post chapter discussion. It's just gonna be us like going through all the sprites. Anyway.
ブロッコリーってどれだっけ?
And they're bringing this joke back of the whole Joe family not being able to tell what broccoli and cauliflower is.
緑だっけ? 黄色だっけ?
サトシ君、そっちはカリフラワー。サトシ君ってひょっとしてキャベツとレタスの区別がつかないタイプ？
それはひどいよ。これでも精一杯区別してるつもり。
See, now if Satoshi has this problem, I know Billy had mentioned this in one of the post-chapter discussions where he joined us. I'm pretty sure he did. If not, it was when we were talking. But he mentioned something along the lines of like, I believe it was implied that Satoko might be colorblind or might have issues being able to tell colors apart because of stuff like this, where if Satoshi, like he's a grown boy, right? Like he's 13, he's 14, he should know what cauliflower and broccoli is. But if he's colorblind, it could be that he really just can't tell because they both look the same to him. So that's I can see that being a thing. It could be that, you know, because they have red eyes, that's like, I mean, it's a stylistic choice, but then also it could just be them literally being colorblind to some extent. Maybe, I don't know. Anyway, Satoshi stared at the heaps of broccoli and cauliflower. After thinking for a while, he reached out for the wrong one.
それ違う。サトシ君の買い物は見ててハラハラしますね。見てるこっちは楽しいけどさ。
参ったな。サトコと一緒の時にも迷うんだよ。ブロッコリーとカリフラワーはどっちが何色だっけってね。
あんたら兄弟2人揃って面白すぎです。
Sisa told me that Satoshi was a flaky big brother to his nagging little sister. I had met Satoko, but she must be having a tough time dealing with Satoshi. He stumbles over everything he buys after all.
それは調理塩。胡椒とか混じってますから、卓上塩とは異なります。
え、そうなの？ほら、確か理科の実験で塩と胡椒を分離するのを確か。
言い訳はいいから棚に戻す。こっちが普通のお塩ね。で、次は？
ミオンがいてくれると買い物が楽で助かるよ。
And there he is, just smiling again.
サトシ君、頭良さそうに見えて社会生活に支障ありすぎです。もう少しお勉強した方がいいと思います。
それはひどいな。あった。これかな。ひょいひょい。
だからそれは違う。何でもカゴに放り込む前に値段と何人分かをよく確認する。
My first impression of Satoshi was that he was strong and reliable. But the more I spoke to him, the more surprised I was at how clumsy and unreliable he was. How do I put it? It was hard to leave him alone. He was dangerous on his own. If he wasn't careful, he might start wondering, do you cross the street when the light is red? Or was it green? What if he can't tell? What if he's colorblind and he has to go off of a, like, position? Like if you know, if the top light is red and the bottom one's green, he's like, okay, when the top one's flashing, I don't go, you know? And get himself run over by a dump truck.
1780円になります。スタンプカードはお持ちですか？
はい、あります。あれ、どこかな？
すみません。ちょっと見当たらないんで、今度でいいです。
I finished checking out, ignoring Satoshi as he fished through his wallet full of receipts.
ひどいな、ミオン。スタンプちゃんと押さないともったいないよ。
あんた、夕暮れ時のお買い物ラッシュの時にのんびりと財布を漁ってスタンプカードなんか探さない。後ろに大勢待ってるんだから。私たちの後ろで海線山線のおばさま方が早くしなさいざますって目でギロギロ睨んでたの気づいてなかったんですか？ね、そういう時はレジ前に並んでる時からあらかじめ用意しておくの。
He's holding up the line, and the second it hits like 6 o'clock or some shit, all the things that were on sale are no longer on sale, and all the grannies are gonna be pissed.
あ、そうか。いいことを聞いたよ。
ちなみにここでのことだけじゃないですからね。バスに乗る時もそう。サトシ君、バスを降りようとして料金を入れる時、その時になって初めてお財布を開けて小銭をちまちまと探して後ろの人を詰まらせて待たせてるでしょう。
みんな僕を追い抜いて勝手に料金を入れてるかな。
はあ、それはね、すっごーく周りに迷惑をかけているのです。そういうのはあらかじめ用意しておくのがマナー。わかりました？
わかったよ。今日のミオンは怖いな。
Satoshi smiled as if patronizing me. I couldn't believe it. He was definitely the type who made women want to protect him. Sure, he was fine as he was when he had a busybody like me around him, but I couldn't stop worrying whether he was able to function in society without someone like that nearby. We got plastic bags and sorted out what we bought. Satoshi put a pack of tofu at the bottom of the bag. I slapped his hand and put in a milk carton instead.
これで OK。これで台所で買い物袋を広げてお母さんに仰天されなくて済みますからね。
ありがとう。助かったよ。
Yeah, because the tofu would break.
僕はどうも買い物が苦手でさ。
買い物だけ？正直におっしゃい。嘘冗談。
I'd realized a few things while I was spending time with him today. He's not just bad at shopping, he's also chronically clumsy. In general, you could call him a slow thinker. That meant when he stepped into the quarrel with the punks, he must have needed a lot of courage. He might be a simpleton, but he's not stupid. He's aware of his weaknesses, so he must have been aware of the danger in that situation. He could have chosen to walk away even though I was in trouble. But he chose to be a man and stepped in. That was really admirable of him.
偉い。サトシ君は頑張ったよ。いい子。
Also, hey Oogie, thanks so much for stopping by over on the kick side.
なんだよ。急に人の頭を撫でないでくれよ。
サトシ君が一人でお買い物ができましたでしょう。なで。
ミオン、僕のことすっごいバカにしてるだろ。
I appreciate it. Thanks so much.
してないよ。お家一人で帰れるかな？道わかる？
やっぱりバカにしてる。
Oh. Satoshi's sulky face flushed red. He's just too cute. At that point, I caught a glimpse of a billboard from the corner of my eye. So here, I mean, you could technically read all this if you really wanted to. I'm pretty sure it is possible to read it. I'm just going to show off the console background, though. And here it is actually a lot clearer, which is interesting. But I think some stuff was redacted. Yeah, like here in the middle next to that fan, it says telephone. And then it says the area code and then like the number below it, but it's just X'd out instead. But look at the original. The original doesn't have a phone number right by the fan, which makes sense. I mean, it would be kind of weird to make a game and then like include a phone number for like someone's whatever, like someone's actual phone number. Anyway. At that point, I caught a glimpse of the billboard from the corner of my eye. Piano lessons, call so-and-so. Abacus class, junior baseball team, members wanted. It was a posting for the team Satoshi belonged to. It showed the day, time, and place of their next practice. By then, I knew just how flaky he was. I figured he must be just the same when playing baseball. Oh, okay. Because remember, I mean, I know this might seem like spoilers, quote unquote, but I mean, if you're paying attention or if you remember this, you know, Shion becomes the manager of the baseball team. And if I recall, Irie sensei was like, she used to be a lot more active, but now she just kind of shows up whenever she wants. And it could be that she was a lot more active when Satoshi was around. And then, you know, once the events of, you know, this year happened, she stops. Sorry, she stops, sneeze. She stops coming by, you know, because he fucking disappears. Satoshi realized that I was reading the posting. He looked uncomfortable and walked away.
今サトシ君は思った。頼むからミオン、野球やってるとこまで来ないでくれよ。図星？
もう
そのムーってのはつまり何さ？図星ってことでしょ。
Satoshi became quiet. After mumbling something, it seemed like he couldn't say anything back since I had been right on the money. Right on the money. Satoshi, you're just too cute. I didn't think going silent is a good way to dodge the issue. Well, that might have just been the way innocent people like him would react in a situation like that.
じゃあね、サトシ君。暗くなりかけてるから気をつけて帰ってね。
ミオンは一緒に帰らないのかい？ひなみ沢。
私はもうちょっと寄るとこありますんで、気にしないで先に帰ってください。
僕の買い物を手伝ってもらったんだから、今度は僕が手伝う。
I was about to say, what if he's like, don't worry, I'll help you out. Or don't worry, I'll come with you. It's no big deal, really.
大丈夫大丈夫。っていうか、サトシ君が何を手伝うおつもりで？人の手伝いする前に自分が手伝われなくて買い物できるようになっといてくださいな。
今日のミオンはひときわ意地悪かな。
He seemed to have some pride at least. He looked a bit upset because he was teased by a girl, but in contrast, I felt very satisfied. As a result, I forgot to keep my guard up.
あ、でも手伝ってくれてありがとうね。本当に助かったから。
While wearing a bright smile, Satoshi suddenly started stroking my head again. I know he's teasing me, but I can't reject him. He keeps doing it only because he's realized I won't resist.
じゃあね、ミオン。暗くならないうちに用事を済ませてね。また明日学校で。
また明日学校でね。
In fact, I wouldn't see him tomorrow at all. It felt awkward, but I had to settle for that. I had to thank Sis for letting me use her name. After I separated from him, I found myself giddy and wishing to see him again as soon as possible. I wanted to know more about him. I couldn't wait for my next chance to see him. Actually, maybe there was something I could do. Just like when I obtained my freedom from St. Lucia's, I could choose how to live my life. Whatever, it wasn't that complicated. I just wanted to tease him more. I wanted him to stroke my head more. And, whatever. I already knew the schedule for his baseball team. So we definitely know what's coming up. A crumpled diary. All right, let's read that tip real quick. My aunt finally stopped her hysterical screaming. Today was just like any other day. I can't remember what set her off. Whatever it was, she changed subjects constantly. Anyway, it didn't matter. She went on past midnight again. The urge to sleep was pounding the back of my head. Once Satoko had been able to relax, she fell down on the spot and started sleeping, still clinging to my sleeve. I carried Satoko to the bedroom and laid out our futons.
ほら、サトコ。布団が敷けたよ。布団に入りな。
Satoko crawled in like a worm. She stopped moving once she was inside. I wish I could go to bed too, but I couldn't. My aunt asked me to do some chores. I had to get toothpaste after school tomorrow. I had to write it down somewhere. To make rice for lunch tomorrow. I set the timer. Right. I also had to repile the towels in the bathroom. That was the reason for today's scolding. My aunt will get mad if everything isn't done the way she wants. Oh, and there was something else. I was working at the grocery store the next day. They wanted me to bring in an apron. Did we even have an apron in this house? I've never seen one. My aunt will be sleeping when I go to school, so I won't have time to ask her. What should I do? Since Mion helped me get that job, I don't want to screw it up. In that case, why don't I ask Mion about it at school? She might lend me one. Was there anything else? I was envious of Satoko because she got to go to bed. It was pathetic that I felt that way. Oh man. So how to word this? So with every other Higurashi chapter, 1, 2, and 3, we have a relatively set schedule. By that I mean, by chapter 6 or 7, no matter what, the Watanagashi festival comes around. And around that point, Keiichi starts normal. When we reach the middle, he starts to kind of get a little crazy. And then by the end of the chapter, he's lost it for the most part. Usually, it's around chapter 6 or 7 that he starts to get less and less sleep. Satoshi, on the other hand, he constantly doesn't get enough sleep. Because he has to deal with his aunt all the fucking time. And that's so annoying. Like, I can't think of being in that situation again. Like, where you have someone that's just constantly yelling and doing, like, just yelling at you for the most menial of shit. Like, stuff that doesn't matter. And you're unable to get any sort of sleep. It's fucking annoying. So imagine Satoshi, right? He lives with his aunt. She's constantly yelling. She's constantly throwing a bitch fit over anything. And he has to protect Satoko. And the only way Satoko can fall asleep is when she's no longer, like, traumatized. Which is insane. So that means, like, Satoshi is, like, constantly on autopilot. To some extent. Anyway, let's continue. Let's do one more chapter.
こんにちは。今日もお暑いのにご精が出ますことで。
お、ミオンさんじゃないですか。こんにちは。あれ？それは差し入れですか？ありがたいな。さすがは我がチームのマネージャー。
まあ気が向いたからです。別に監督に差し入れたくて買ってきたわけじゃないので、 そこんとこをよろしくお願いします。あとさりげなく人を勝手にマネージャーに組み込まないように。
ミオンがマネージャーだったらいろいろ心強いと思うけどね。やってよミオン。マネージャー。
Interesting. So here we have Satoshi in a uniform. Interesting. Here's what I mean by the muscle tone being weird. The constant. I think they're using the exact same shading. Actually, as a matter of fact, the shirt that Satoshi is wearing right now is the exact same shirt. It's the exact same white shirt he was wearing, before, when he's not in uniform. It's the exact same shirt. All they did was change the collar area and then add the like yellow and black stripe going down the middle. Everything else is the same. They added the 7, they added the little red bits, the parts on the sleeves. But if you look at the design, it's the exact same shirt. It's got the creases in the exact same places. Oh, that's so fucking terrible. I mean, I get it, right? Save money, save assets, like reuse assets or edit assets, but holy fuck, dude. Anyway. Satoshi smiled at me in a carefree manner. I didn't want to become their manager, it'd be tiresome. Becoming every week. I've been coming every week though, so I'm a quasi-manager already.
まあ本当に気が向いたらその時はやりますんで。で、どうです？サトシ君の打率はどんな感じです？
頑張ってますよ。彼の打率ですか？セブンスマートでおせんべいの袋をどれでも3つ買うとですね。
それってつまり3割ってことですか？へえ、サトシ君って結構な高打率打者じゃないの。
打率は数字じゃないよミオン。ここ一番で打てなきゃ意味はないんだからさ。
サトシ君は自分で自分の弱点をよく分かっているようですね。そこまで分かっているならあとは練習あるのみですよ。
Idia signaled to the pitcher who threw the ball. Satoshi looked calm, following the ball with his eyes, then swung. Thwack. The ball flew between the first and second bases and landed in the distance.
おー、やったー。パチパチパチパチパチ。
What? Okay, I didn't think people actually said that out loud, but like pachi is the onomatopoeia for like clapping. So like you'll see that in like chats, right? But I didn't know that like people actually said it out loud instead of just clapping. I clapped and Satoshi blushed in response. He repositioned his helmet to hide his face.
フリーバッティングや試合が平坦な時はかなり落ち着いたいいバッティングを見せてくれるんですけどね。
Idia smiled compassionately. It seemed that Satoshi really couldn't perform well when it counted. While he was usually good, when everybody expected him to perform, he couldn't. I didn't think it was because of nervousness, he just couldn't do it. I think it's a perfect fit for Satoshi's character. He seems calm at first, but he's actually slow.
スコアボードとかそういう数字上ではかなりの高アベレージヒッターなのにね。本番に弱いってのは致命的かも。そんなことだからこないだの浮田ジャガーとの試合でもここ一番で凡退するんですよ。
うるさいな。気にしてるんだから黙っててくれよ。
あそこで打てればかなり美味しい見せ場だったんですけどね。残念です。
A hit could have put the offense in the lead, or at least given them an extension. That was when Satoshi came up to bat. Idia wanted him to live up to everybody's expectations. I thought that's it, liven up. But statistically, that wasn't likely to happen. Yet Idia insisted on giving him a chance, in spite of the fact that all of the team members had suggested a pinch hitter.
ああもうあそこで打てれば完璧なのにな。どうしてダメなんですか？どうしてああいう時に打てないんですか？
仕方ないよ。僕がああいう時弱いの本当だし、僕だって代打を出してくれた方が試合に勝てるかなって思ったし。
試合に勝つかじゃなくてサトシ君が勝つかどうかが問題なんです。ああもう、なんで当の本人にここまで闘争心がないのかな。普通は逆でしょ。代打に変えられそうなところをここは俺に打たせてくださいって食ってかかるとこでしょ。自分から代打を出してほしいなんて言い出すなんて、ああもう、なんでここまで闘争心がないのかな。
それは私も普段から言ってるんですけどね。まあその辺がサトシ君のいいところではあるんですがね。
普段は紳士でも試合には鬼になる。男にはそういう二面性があっても私はいいと思います。とにかくサトシ君には鬼がない。仮にもひなみ沢の人間なんだから、たまにはご先祖の鬼の血を思い出してくださいよね。
Oh boy.
聞いてます、サトシ君。
聞いてるよ。よくわかんないけど、
わかんないけどってサトシ君の話をしてるんですよ。それを
Satoshi suddenly started stroking my head. He looked delighted for some reason. A blush immediately spread across my face. I didn't know how to
ミオは
respond.
僕のためを思って言ってくれてるんだよね。ありがとう。僕は頑張る。
I mean, she is right technically that he does have like ogre blood in his veins, considering that he is like the son of, you know, one of the main households, one of the three major families. So technically, yeah.
サトシ君、そういうことしてごまかさないでください。
ごまかしてなんかないよ。嬉しいだけだよ。
Oh. I couldn't resist his hand. I couldn't help mumbling like he does. Satoshi ran back to the field, leaving me red as a beet.
頭撫でられるの弱いんですか？
撫でる人によります。監督が撫でてきたら関節決めますんで、覚悟の方よろしくです。
もうずるいな。じゃあ全員集合。今日は出席もいいことですから、人数を分けて紅白戦をやってみましょう。
The Hinamizawa fighters are a sort of lazy team. The members gather simply to enjoy playing baseball, not to fight for victory. The Okinomiya Titans use this field too, but they practice on a different day of the week. They always train hard using dumbbells and stuff. Our team split into two groups and started a match, retaining their loose atmosphere.
じゃあ、私は記録でもやるかな。監督、どっかに鉛筆ないですか？
いつもすみませんね。はい、これお願いしますね。
I took the pencil and clipboard. I didn't know how to differentiate between recording hits and errors at first, but by now I was used to it.
頑張ってサトシ君。あんまり応援するとまた打てなくなっちゃいますね。ほどほどに頑張れ。
She's like, do your best. Never mind, just do something.
それはそれでひどいな。
Time passed slowly that Sunday. Huge white clouds appeared in the sky. They made me feel healthy. Humans are born to be active under the sun. One of the parents was acting as umpire today. So Idia sat on the bench with me. He shouted words of encouragement to the kids while they ran to their positions. Any other baseball coach would constantly berate them, but he was much more generous, like a kindergarten teacher. He let the kids have fun while watching over them. To other baseball players, it might look a little
そ
naive.
れでもあの程度の練習量でみんなこれだけの動きができるんだから驚きですよね。
ひなみ沢の子はみんな普段から元気に遊び回ってますからね。運動量は町のことは比べ物にならないんですよ。変なフォームで固めてしまうより遊び感覚の方が伸びるんです。
おお、見事に沖宮タイタンズとは正反対の考え方ですね。あちらの監督と対立するのわかる気がします。
タイタンズさんの考えも間違ってませんよ。試合は勝つためにするものですからね。 勝利至上主義は決して間違いじゃないです。みんなで団結して共通の目標を目指すのはとても素敵なことだと思いますからね。まあうちはその目標がたまたま勝利じゃないってだけのことです。
The Hinamizawa Fighters and the Okinomiya Titans have been rivals for a long time. Both teams shared the same baseball field for one thing. And originally there was only one team, but the people living in Hinamizawa left and made their own. Anyhow, we were rivals. The Okinomiya Titans were strictly about winning, and the Hinamizawa Fighters were about just having fun. Surprisingly, our scores weren't that different, which meant our team had something they didn't. Even though I couldn't put it into words, I knew what made that happen. It was Satoshi.
赤組さんも頑張ってください。2点差なんかひっくり返せちゃいますよ。白組も油断なくしっかり。
Still, some parents would criticize our coach for being too lenient. But still, others would strongly agree with him. Which side would I take? The latter? I couldn't really say for sure. The reason for this was that Irie had an obnoxious habit of sexual harassment. In particular, he had a fascination with maids. But I should talk about that some other time. Oh my god. They're like, the coach is a pervert, but at least he's not into kids. Or at least he's not into little boys. Satoshi let the ball pass twice to see its trajectory, then hit it on the third pitch and ran to first base.
サトシ君打った打った。落ち着いてればさすがですよね。
最初はちょっと素振りしただけですぐバテてたんですけどね。それを思えば本当に上達したものです。
サトシ君って文系って感じの人ですよね。よくその彼が野球をやろうなんて思ったものですね。
All the other kids who joined the baseball team loved baseball. They'd go out and play in the fields outside of practice. That's why they all had an aptitude for it. But Sis never said that Satoshi exercises intensively in school or anywhere else. He only likes to read. That's why I didn't understand why he started playing for this team to begin with.
それはですね、私がサトシ君をこのチームに誘ったからなんです。
へえ、監督が自らスカウトしたんですか？サトシ君に何かすごい素質があるのを見抜いて？
あ、すみません。麦茶を一杯もらってもいいですか？あ、どうも。
Irie asked for tea in a suspicious manner. While we constantly joked around, I knew he was actually a very mature person. I assumed he was trying to evade my
何か
question.
訳ありなんですか？
Irie pretended he didn't hear me, but I pressed him on it. In response, he shrugged and began answering the question.
園崎さんなら、あるいは想像がつくんじゃないかと。
What would be Mion Sonozaki's guess? I quickly searched through the data I had on Satoshi. I came up with Satoshi's family circumstances. He lost his parents in an accident about a year ago. Since then, he's been having a tough time at his uncle's home.
じゃあ監督はサトシ君の鬱憤とかそういうのを解消させてあげようと思ってこのチームに？
スポーツはいいですよ。程よく体を動かして汗をかくことはストレスの発散になります。また熱中することによってわずかな間でも家庭のことを忘れられるならそれは十分な気分転換になりますしね。
ほらサトシ君ってぼんやりしてるというかのほほんとしてるというかそういうところあるじゃないですか。やっぱり相当ストレスあるんですか？
I knew Satoshi must be suffering, even though he didn't look like it. But Mion never pays attention to things like that, and I had to act like she does.
おじさんに引き取られて少ししてからサトシ君がだいぶ体調を崩しましてね。いろんな症状を訴えるんですが、いくら調べても原因がはっきりしないんですよ。
Satoshi often got sick after he was taken into his uncle's custody. He suffered from fatigue and migraines. He suffered from a lack of energy and sleeplessness. The coach, Dr. Irie, soon realized Satoshi was suffering from a psychological disorder. Most of the people in Hinamizawa knew how bad Satoshi's environment was. It was natural for him to become sick because he entered that bad environment right after his parents' death.
サトシ君は感情の爆発ができないタイプなんですよ。泣いたりとか怒ったりとか、そういう感情が人一倍苦手なんです。
確かにサトシくんが泣いたりとか怒ったりってのはあまり想像つかないですね。
サトシ君のお母さんが再婚を重ねてるのはご存知で？
まあ少しは。
Satoshi's mother had married a number of men over the years. That meant Satoshi had several stepfathers. He had to deal with strangers coming into his home multiple times, so he was forced to be mature.
サトシ君は精神的に早熟なんです。本人は自覚していないでしょうがね。泣いたり笑ったりダダをこねたり、そういう時代をあっという間に卒業させられて大人になっちゃったんです。
監督の言い方だと、大人ってのが必ずしもいいようには聞こえないですね。
子供は子供らしく過ごすことで成長していくようにできているんです。それを無理に大人にしたらやっぱりいいことはないですよ。
Not only was Satoko's current relationship with her aunt conspicuously terrible, I heard that her relationship with her previous stepfathers weren't good either. Satoko always caused problems, and Satoshi would always step in to protect her.
だからサトシ君の体に変調が出たのは、そういうことに体が耐えかねた SOS じゃないかって思ったんです。
That's why Irie invited Satoshi onto the baseball team. He told Satoshi that he needed a new member, or something like that.
初めは渋ってましたけどね。彼と診療の際にいろいろとお話しするうちに少しずつ打ち解けていきましてね。ちょっと見学だけにでも来てみるといい。ちょっとバットを持ってみるといい。なんて感じで少しずつ誘っていったんですよ。
Sports worked excellently for Satoshi. His health quickly improved and he started to become interested in baseball. He practiced batting, he was soon able to swing beautifully, and he learned how to see the trajectory of the ball.
なんかわかるな。サトシくんってコツコツタイプですからね。How to Baseball なんて本をしおり挟みながら読んでる風景が想像できます。
それであれよあれよという間に3割、本当によく頑張りました。これでピンチの時にも打てれば完璧なんですけどね。
サトシくんと監督って仲いいんですか？
悪くはないと思ってますよ。悩みとかそういうのを打ち明けてくれたということは、私を信頼してくれたからだと思ってます。
I felt a bit jealous of how confidently Irie said that. While Satoshi and I were friends, we weren't so close that we'd open up to each other like that.
あれ？嫉妬してます？
何に？
Taken aback, I blushed. Irie started laughing at me.
園崎さんもサトシ君の相談相手になってあげてください。
Hold on, did I miss something? Oh, okay. Because Irie was like, yeah, we're close. I see.
まあ慣れるなら慣れたらいいかななんて。で
What a laugh. Please be good friends with him. Yeah, I will. It's so fucking weird. I didn't know what I was saying.
サトシ君ですね。最近また少し体調を崩してるみたいなんです。
え？
The ball flew to the left. And here we have a little CG again. We don't get many of these, or we haven't gotten too many of these this chapter, it seems. Or by this, I mean like chapter 5 as a whole. But the left fielder managed to catch it. It seemed that the relationship between Satoko and her aunt had gotten worse lately. It was obvious his sickness had something to do with
おば
that.
さんがかなり大人げないいじめ方をしているらしいんです。サトコちゃん、本当にかわいそうなくらいにボロボロになって。何しろ聞いた話では。
で それをかばうサトシ君もボロボロになっているということですね。
I wasn't interested in Satoko, so I switched the subject back to Satoshi. I didn't know much about Satoko. I knew that she was a big part of Satoshi's life, but I had never been interested in her until today. She must have been building up self-esteem and taking care of her unreliable brother. That was all I knew about her. But considering Satoshi's personality, even that goofiness of his might have been an act. Maybe he was trying to make her feel good about herself by letting her take care of him, if only unconsciously. When he's alone, he's surprisingly strong. I realized that only recently, so I couldn't help but think that his whole life is constantly affected by Satoko. Satoshi managed to get along with his stepfathers even though he experienced some stress. He was even getting along with his aunt, but in order to protect Satoko, he always had to step in and suffer. I didn't really know anything about Satoko, but I had to admit I felt hostile towards her. I felt jealous because he was monopolizing him.
最近、さとこちゃんへのおばさんのいじめがだいぶエスカレートしてるみたいです。
Yeah.
サトシ君の体調不良もそれに比例しているんでしょうね。
Idia heaved a sigh. As he said, Satoshi had been absent a few times already, or lately. He seemed a bit tired too. He looked normal when around everybody else, but he looked a bit depressed when he was alone.
監督はストレスに押しつぶされそうなサトシ君を救うため野球に誘ったんですよね。
ええ。そのつもりでした。
こうして野球をやっている今、またストレスに押しつぶされそうになっているサトシ君に今度は何を誘えばいいんですか？
どうすればいいんでしょうね。
Idia smiled powerlessly. I couldn't help feeling a bit disappointed about that, because Satoshi put his trust in him.
内緒にしてくださいよ。実はですね、チームを抜けたいってそう漏らすんですよ。
どうして？
疲れるからだそうです。というのは表向き。さとこちゃんと一緒にいる時間を増やしてあげるためじゃないかと思ってます。さとしくんは野球をしている間、さとこちゃんがおばさんにいじめられているかもしれない。その時、さとこちゃんのそばにいられないことが兄として辛いと。そう。
I was left speechless for a while. Satoko again. Satoko. Why did Satoshi have to sacrifice so much for her? Just by ignoring her, his stress would melt away. Of course, I knew he couldn't do that. If that were the case, then the blame lay with his little sister. I knew how badly she'd been treated, but that only happened because she made things worse for herself. It was her fault that she couldn't establish a decent relationship with her aunt. If Satoko was more mature like Satoshi, her home life wouldn't have gotten so bad. Satoshi wouldn't have to suffer those indirect blows. In the meantime, the baseball team's practice match had become one-sided. It wasn't even worth watching anymore. The members of the losing team were just goofing off. The sky had turned cloudy too. It was depressing. It didn't look like it rained soon though. The gray sky hadn't brought along any cool air. It just felt disgusting. Idia became quiet. He was looking down around his feet. I, meanwhile, just stared at Satoshi. To me, he didn't look active anymore. He was once able to enjoy playing baseball, and he felt fine. But he got sick again, just because the relationship between Satoko and her aunt had deteriorated. I couldn't help but say it.
サトシ君をどうこうするってより、サトコをどうこうする方が先決では。
It was just a murmur, but Idia had definitely caught it.
それはどういう意味ですか？
We kill Satoko. If we get rid of her, then there's no problem, right?
別に難しい話じゃないです。サトコがしっかりしてくれれば、サトシ君に迷惑をかけることもない。サトコがそもそもの原因であるってことが言いたいだけです。
そんなことは。
でしょ？だってサトコがトラブルからサトシ君はそのトラブルに介入して矢面に立たなければならないんでしょ？でその結果、本当は買わなくて済んだおばの喧嘩まで買ってるわけでしょ？
Satoshi never got scared of any trouble. No matter how formidable the enemy, he'd bravely stand up to protect the weak. I knew that because I could vividly imagine it. Whenever their aunts chide Satoko, Satoshi steps in to protect her. The aunt probably didn't like it. Though Satoshi didn't have to fight, the aunt would attack him anyways. The fight would then be between the aunt and him. Satoko might then tease the aunt by sticking out her tongue, hiding behind his back, and pretending to be scared. She'd never think about how deeply he was being hurt. Because of Satoko, Satoshi had become cornered and stressed.
園崎さん、あなたがそんな言い方をする人だったとは。あなたはさとこちゃんのお友達でしょ。お姉さん的な立場でしょ。普段も学校でさとこちゃんを慰めたり励ましたりしてるものだと思ってました。なのにそんな言い方をするなんて正直驚いています。
Iria looked at me suspiciously. I could tell what he was thinking about me. I'd said too much. Mion and Satoko are friends. They're close, so Mion should have been encouraging her after the situation at home got tougher. That's what Mion was supposed to do. I had totally forgotten about that and spoke as myself. It's only natural that Iria would give me a suspicious look. He might end up changing his impression of Mion entirely. I'd have to apologize to her about this and ask her to put things straight. I totally messed up. Even so, I didn't think I'd said anything wrong. I had objectively looked at the situation and made a modest proposal. To be honest, I was simply afraid that he might leave the team. I couldn't go to the school in Hinamizawa, so the baseball field was the only place where I could see him. I could even say that he was my reason for living. That's right, I was in love with him. But I wasn't going to tell him how I felt, for I was satisfied just by being by his side. I certainly couldn't ask for anything more. After all, I couldn't reveal my true identity. I had to pretend to be Mion in order to live in Okinomiya. I thought that maybe I should leave Okinomiya in order to be free. But that's stupid. No matter how tough my life might be, I prefer to be here. With Satoshi stroking my head every now and then. Why did I love him that much? I read about it in some manga once. You don't need a reason to be in love. I was surprised at myself for being like this.
私
I breathed out slowly, then held my breath, trying to slow my throbbing heart. I felt a bit calmer. At that point, a clear thought came into my head. I want to be with Satoshi. So, I want him to stay on the team. So, I want him to get rid of his concerns and his stress. So what? We have to kill Satoko. So, what can I do to achieve all that? My head started to cool down as I heard the umpire shout. I should title the video that, like when this goes up on YouTube. Like, we have to kill Satoko. Some days I did see him, some days I don't. A clear sky gets cloudy and rain will always stop eventually. I thought his absence was just like that, but he was actually on the verge of a breakdown. Notebook page 19. The rainy season was just around the corner, and the air had become so humid that my shirt stuck to my skin. I fucking hate that, dude. It had been a few weeks since Satoshi had stopped showing up for baseball practice. I looked for him as soon as I arrived at the field. He's not here yet. Did I get here too early? I want to see him playing in the field right when I get here. I had started arriving late because of those feelings. However, he wasn't here today either. I didn't even bother hiding my disappointment anymore. Everybody knew by now how I felt. The team members from Mion's class came over to try and console me. But I shooed them away.
園崎さん、気分が優れませんか?
I'm feeling lovesick, doctor. Even Idia couldn't comfort me. I was aware that he too knew why I was like this.
今日帰りますね。気分じゃないです。
ほら、今日は沖宮タイタンズさんと打ち合わせをする日じゃないですか。マネージャーの園崎さんにも同席してほしかったんですがね。
私を勝手にマネージャーにしないでください。私、マネージャーだったつもりはないんですから。
Idia looked down, not knowing what to say.
わかりました。 元気が回復したらまた手伝ってくださいね。
もう来ないかもです。マネージャーが必要なら私以外を募集してください。
気が向いた時でいいです。また遊びに来てくださいね。それにほら、あなたがいないとサトシ君が戻ってきた時寂しがりますよ。
I ignored him and turned around. That's manipulation, Doctor. What are you doing? I'd already set up my schedule with Mion, so I didn't have to ask her every time anymore. I tried to contact her a couple of times to ask how Satoshi-kun was doing at school, but I hadn't been able to get through to her. Apparently, the hag had sensed that I might be in contact with Sis. In other words, Sis was being watched. As a result, it hadn't been easy to contact her. Kasai, who had been helping me contact her, seemed to also have been marked. People knew she was loyal to me, or he was loyal to me. I hadn't seen him for a while either. All I could do was wonder how Satoshi was doing. I was frustrated because there was no way for me to know. My head was filled with worries, but something surprised me out of the blue. Somebody called out to me when I was about to leave the field on my bike.
Mi-chan, konnichiwa.
Oh, it's Rena. I'd never seen this girl before. Luckily, she called me Mi-chan. There's only one person who refers to Mion that way, as far as I know.
レナか。珍しいね。レナがここに来るなんて。
Her name was Reina Ryugu. Her real name is Reina, but she wants to be called Rena. So that's what we call her. She moved here in April. So is it June yet? Is it May? I'm not sure what month it is at the moment. I don't believe we've had an established month. We know the year, but I don't believe we know the month yet. Had some information on her, but it was all ambiguous. Sis was still a bit uncertain about her since she's so new. It was hard for me to handle someone like that. And I guess just in case you forgot, that's the console sprite. I didn't know how to act around her as Mion, so I decided to pretend to be in an obvious sulky mood. That way, she wouldn't talk to me as much, assuming that Mion was simply feeling bad. Well, that's how I really am anyway.
みーちゃんは帰り？うん。気分が優れないの。悪いね。じゃあ一緒に帰ろう。
Oh no. I wanted to say that I'd rather be alone, but there's only one road to Hinamizawa. So asking to be alone would look odd. The only way to not seem suspicious would be to walk home with her.
そうだね。帰ろうか。
Rena quietly nodded. I unlocked my bike.
みーちゃん、傘は？持ってないけど。今日はこの後、天気崩れるかもしれないんだって。傘ないなら急ごう。
As she predicted, we were attacked by pouring rain on our way. We ended up taking shelter in a small shack in front of a bus stop.
すごい降りだけど、これはそんなに長引きそうじゃないね。向こうの空は明るいもの。
Imagine we make up an excuse or something like, ah, shit, I forgot something back at the field. I gotta go back. Right? We go back. Rena doesn't follow us, but Rena waits for us. And waits for us. And waits for us. And the following day at school, she goes up to Mion and is like, what the fuck is your problem? And is like, you left me waiting at the bus stop for hours. You said you had something to get, and then we were gonna walk back home together. Where were you? And then Mion will lie to her, and then Rena will be like, you fucking liar. You're fucking lying to me. And she gets all fucking dramatic. Anyway.
そうだね。
I heard the sound of rain pattering on the rooftop and the raindrops jumping into puddles. It sounded loud, but it made me feel strangely calm. I zoned out for a moment. Then Rena talked to me while looking up at the rainy sky.
最近元気ないって聞いたから心配してたんだよ。
All the baseball team members knew I was depressed because I hadn't seen Satoshi recently. Most of them attended the school in Hinamizawa, so it wasn't surprising that she knew at all, or that she knew as well. I hadn't been able to contact Sis these past few weeks, but I was sure she had an idea of how I feel about Satoshi and how I would feel if he didn't come to baseball practice. Sis was probably pretending to act a little depressed during her day-to-day in Hinamizawa to avoid creating a big gap between our moods. But neither of us knew the details about the other right now. so she wouldn't be able to answer if others asked her what was wrong. She'd only be able to say, "Leave me alone." That might lead more people to become worried. But Anna must have thought Mion was depressed. That must be why she came all the way to see me. She must have known what was going on because she knew that I was at the baseball field.
サトシ君、構ってくれないから寂しい？
Having deduced what's been going on with Satoshi from what she just said, he'd been distancing himself from the others lately because of exhaustion. That's what it sounded like, at least.
サトコちゃんの件でだいぶ悩んでるみたいだった。サトシ君はすごく追い詰められてると思う。かわいそうだよね。
サトシ君は本当に妹思いだからね。偉いよ、本当に。
What it said sounded hollow, as I knew too well how much of a burden Satoko had
で
become.
もだからってみーちゃんまで落ち込んじゃったらかえってサトシ君を追い詰めちゃうように思うかな。
私に追い詰めるつもりなんて。
それはもちろん知ってるよ。でもだからこそ学校にいる時のサトシ君を笑顔で迎えてあげられなかったらみーちゃんはたとえ嘘でも笑顔が作れる強い人間だって知ってる。だから嘘でも笑ってほしいの。最初はたとえ嘘でもね。笑顔って最後には本物になるんだよ。
What she was saying in a nutshell was this. Both Satoshi and Satoko were totally wiped out. If Mion was also depressed, even though she's the sort of person who usually lightens the mood, their situation would be stuck in a vicious cycle. Rena sounded more like she was trying to give me advice than trying to console me. She must be more mature than she looks. Sis told me that she was a funny girl with a few bad habits, but she seemed to have another very mature side to her.
みーちゃんはサトシくんのこと好き？
好き。
Though I shouldn't have told her that, I immediately responded.
なら笑おう。
Rena smiled
みー
herself.
ちゃんの笑顔できっとサトシくんに元気を分けてあげられると思う。みーちゃんはそれしかできないことに落胆しかけているかもしれないけれど、それでもね、多分それが一番サトシくんの力になる。
理屈ではわかるけどね。笑えったってそう簡単にはできないよ。
Rena giggled and nodded.
野球の練習にもさ、バイトが終わったらきっと帰ってくるから。
His part-time job. I almost asked that question, but I managed to stop myself. From the tone of Rena's voice, it sounded like it was something everyone knew.
バイトか。いつ終わるんだろうね。
お金が貯まるまでだろうけど、どんなに遅くてもさとこちゃんの誕生日までには終わるよ。
When was Satoko's birthday? Satoko's birthday was, I think, the day after or 2 days after the Watanagashi, if I recall. I tried to figure out what was going on from what she said. I had to listen very carefully to uncover the whole picture. Satoshi seemed to be working in order to make some money. I don't think it's easy to find a job when you're still in school. Sis might have had something to do with it. His job only seemed temporary, and it seemed to have something to do with Satoko's birthday. It wasn't that difficult to figure out. Satoshi was working and saving up to buy his little sister something expensive for her birthday. He was trying to comfort her, even though he was so torn up himself. Satoko again. Or Satoko again. Satoshi was already worn out because of her, and he was now working for her sake, even though he was exhausted. How stupid. It would be easier for him to just forget about Satoko. Immediately, Rena. She immediately knows. She immediately knew. we are not Mion. Because she could read our face, like she could read our expression or what we were thinking of. I was startled when I realized that Anna was looking straight into my eyes. She was smiling, but her eyes looked creepy. I never voiced what I was thinking, but she was looking at me as though she figured out she figured out that I was blaming Satoko. She beamed when she noticed my fear. She smiled as though she understood that I thought that way because of love. She was giving me the creeps. I could hear the thunder roar in the distance. The rain began to pick up.
さとこちゃんがサトシ君を独占してることに嫉妬を感じてる？
I avoided answering immediately this time, but Rena seemed to know what I was thinking already.
別にみーちゃんがそう思っても私は軽蔑しないよ。人を一途に好きになるときってそういうものだもん。
ありがとう。
でもみーちゃんは今までずっとさとこちゃんを励ましてくれてたよね。それって私すごく立派なことだと思うな。
さとこは仲間だもの。当然でしょ。
I sounded so fake. I felt like spitting on the floor.
私たちにはさとこちゃんもさとしくんも励ますことしかできない。どうやったらこの苦境から救ってあげられるのかわからない。
さとこがさとしくんにべったりしすぎなんだよ。さとこがもっとしっかりすればさとしくんがここまで追い詰められることはない。
はっきり言うね。
Rena nodded with an unflinching smile, even though my remarks could be taken as harsh. What was this mysterious girl thinking? It was difficult to get a read on her.
さとしくんもさ、ほんの少しはそう思っているとこあるかもしれないね。
え？
Rena kept smiling, but her smile looked strangely cold.
さとしくんも多分心のどこかで、さとこちゃんをかばい続けることに疲れを感じてると思う。
Given the type of person Rena is, I don't think she'd say something if she wasn't certain of it. Because of that, she must have been confident in what she just told me.
どうしてそう思う？
私、さとしくんに打ち明けられたから。
え？
Satoshi secretly confessed to her. Rena asked me to keep it that way.
さとしくんがね、兄として頼られることに苦痛を感じる。それはとても罪深いことだと知っているけどってね。
Oh, I don't think he would say something like that, but however, it wasn't likely that Rena was lying. I just met her, so I didn't know what made me feel that way. But my hunch told me that she was telling the truth. I heaved a huge sigh. Satoshi must have gotten so tired that he couldn't help telling someone. Even so, even if he thought that way, he wouldn't tell somebody so easily. Maybe Rena led him to do so. She might be capable of something like that. I don't understand this girl. It had only been a little while since we'd met, but I'd already started talking about something I was keeping deep inside of me. Does she have some kind of supernatural power to reach into people's minds and drag out what they're thinking? It suddenly hit me that I was sitting with this creepy girl in a tiny shack. It suddenly hit me that I might die right now. I've been dragged into her strange world. I don't think Sis has realized Rena's real personality. She thinks Rena is just a funny girl with some strange habits. She would have told me if she knew.
レナはサトシ君に打ち明けられるくらいに信頼されてるんだね。
And then here we have another quick CG. Now, one thing to note as well is the way Shion is depicted here. Where, remember, Shion normally wears her hair down. Here, she has it in a ponytail. So anytime that she goes out, she has to look like Mion. which is interesting. Rena's hand is also very weirdly drawn. Like her pinky. Her pinky looks really weird. The one on her left hand, by the way. Or I guess her right hand, technically. The one that we can see by the, you know, next to her hair, not the one by her hip. Like, that pinky looks so weird. Anyway.
羨ましい。
別に信頼されてるわけじゃない。私が経験者だからだと思う。
経験？レナにも兄弟をかばったりした経験が？
ひたひたとずっと足音がついてきて、夜は枕元にまで立たれて見下ろされる経験。
Huh? Sorry, Irena. What are you talking about? I turned around to face her and got the chills. Oh. Just the way her eyes shifted from full to the typical Irena stare. Though she was smiling, her eyes looked ice cold. I trembled and froze with my eyes open.
みーちゃんにはない？ないと思う。多分。
Rena kept laughing self-derisively. I tried to figure out what she was saying.
みーちゃんはひなみ沢から逃げ出そうとか、もっと都会に行きたいなとか、そういうことを考えたことはある？
I didn't know how to respond. Rena waited for my answer, urging me to speak with her silence.
ないよ。私は地元好きだし。
だよね。だよね。みーちゃんはそうだと思う。
It didn't seem like a good idea to lie to her. Rena has some kind of power I can't grasp. She can read people's minds just by seeing the slightest change in their expressions. So I had to tell her the truth.
そうならば、みーちゃんは大丈夫。お社様には怒られない。
お社様？
Oyashiro-sama, that's Hinamizawa's guardian deity. I couldn't understand why she mentioned that name. My mind stopped for a moment.
お社様。
She calmly repeated the name as if trying to teach me something. Yeah, I remember. Oyashiro-sama never allows heathens to desecrate Hinamizawa. Oyashiro-sama never allows the villagers to leave either. Those are the rules. Slowly, I recalled the fear of the curse which supposedly caused the dismemberment murder and the death of the Hojo couple. When I was sent to the institution, I had this fear. I was scared that if I went to that faraway boarding school, I'd fall under the curse. But I should be okay. I escaped from the school and returned to my hometown, to Okinomiya to be precise, but it should be okay according to the kit's rules, because I love Hinamizawa. The hag forces me to live this suffocating life, but I still chose to stay in this place. I don't believe I'm breaking Oyashiro-sama's rules. Even though the Sonosuke family had selfishly banished me to a remote place, I came back here anyway. Oyashiro-sama should even bless me for that. I guess I'm trying to convince myself that the curse doesn't apply to me. But I think I'm still afraid of it.
私は地元好きだから。その意味では、お社様のたたりがあるとは思っちゃいないね。模範的だとすら思ってるけど。
うん。それは私も認める。だからこそ、サトシ君のことはわかんない。
どうして？
サトシ君は心のどこかでひなみ沢を捨ててどこかへ逃げ出したいと思ってるから。
Right. And I mean, remember, we know this. We know all of this. We've learned about this already. We know that Satoshi wanted to do something big, right, for Satoko on her birthday. I'm trying to remember the specifics. It's been a little bit. right? I mean, if you're watching this on YouTube back to back, it's been like a video, maybe 2 for you. In my case, it's been like weeks since we've covered some of this. But if I recall, Satoshi wanted to do something for Satoko on her birthday. Instead, what he ends up doing is he ends up killing his aunt and uncle, or he ends up killing his aunt with a baseball bat, right? He bashes her skull in. At least that's what we know, or we assume, because someone else got caught and blamed, or, you know, someone was framed for that crime, or someone else came and said that they did it. So it was implied that he did it, and then he ran away. And because he ran away, he was onikakushi'd. He was, you know, demoned away, quote unquote. Which is why he wants to, quote unquote, leave subconsciously. If he were to get rid of his aunt, then no one would be able to bother Satoko. And if no one's there to bother Satoko, she wouldn't need protecting. Therefore, he can finally ditch his sister and have a normal life. Eh? I gave an inaudible cry. While I was feeling sad that Satoshi hadn't shown up for practice, he still lived in Hinamizawa. So I'd never even considered the thought of him going away.
サトシ君が家出したがってるってこと？
無意識のうちにお社様が枕元に立つまでは多分意識すらしてなかったと思う。
I still had no idea what she was talking about. I continued trying to figure out what she was saying. I vaguely remember something from, I think it was Onikakushi, when Rena was telling us that when she had moved away, because remember, Rena used to live in Hinamizawa, and then she moved out. And she lived in a normal school, like she went to a school in another town or something, and that one day she was hearing footsteps behind her. And because she was hearing footsteps, she started to like see things or whatever. And I believe she mentioned that she saw or heard Oyashiro-sama. Like when she was in bed, like he was like standing on top of her or floating on top of her or something by her bedside. And she felt compelled to change. And then she wanted to return to Hinamizawa.
サトシ君が体験していることはすべてお社様のたたりの前触れなの。誰かが遠くからじっと伺っている。誰かがずっとつけてくる。誰かがやがて足音は常に自分とずれて一つ余計に聞こえるようになるの。それらは初めのうちはお外でだけだけど、やがて後ろのそれは自分の家の中にまでついてくるようになる。そしてお布団に入って明かりを消してもずっと枕元から見下ろしてるの。ただただ黙って自らの罪を認めるまで。サトシ君は夢見が悪いって最初言い出したの。それで私がどんな夢と聞いたら、私の時をなぞるようだった。だから私彼に予告したの。その気配がやがて近づき足音を聞かせるようになり、常にサトシ君を見下ろしているようになったなら、それはきっと私の時と同じだから相談してって。サトシ君は初め私のことを怪訝に思ったと思う。でも私が予告した通りにお社様が枕元にまで立つに至って、やっと自分の身に起こってることを相談できるのは私しかいないって気づいたの。
Rena didn't look like she was joking. Now try to picture that for yourself a little bit. Imagine you live alone. You know, in an apartment or in a home or somewhere. And every now and again, you start hearing an extra footstep. Let's say you get up, you go to your kitchen, maybe you go to your fridge to get something, maybe water or a snack or whatever, right? And as you're walking, you have your footsteps, and then you hear an extra pair behind you. When you go to bed, you feel someone watching you. Somewhere in the darkness, there is a presence or someone staring at you. Whenever you're out and about in town, if you're walking, even if there are people around you, you hear someone else's footsteps. That's what Satoshi was going through. That's what Rena was going through. And now Satoshi, well, I mean, he's going through it a lot more as the curse kind of got stronger, right? As his desire to leave increased. Oyashiro-sama's presence also started to become a lot more palpable. She just calmly told me what had been going on. I couldn't even move. I couldn't tell if her words were a joke or the truth. I could only feel stunned.
私はね、もともとひなみ沢に住んでいたの。小学校に上がる直前で茨城に引っ越した。でも新しい環境に馴染めなくてね。心の中のお社様にひなみ沢に帰れ、帰れって何度も呼びかけられてた。でも小学生の子が泣きながら元の町に帰りたいって言ったってどうにもならないもんね。私は現実とお社様の声に板挟みにされてずっと過ごすことになる。そして
Rena paused. It looked like she didn't want to go into details of what followed. In general, she confused me even more.
結局いろいろあって私はひなみ沢に帰ってくることができた。だからお社様にはそれで許してもらえた。あれ以来お社様の気配を感じることはないもの。でもね、サトシ君は私と違ってひなみ沢にいながらお社様のたたりを受けることになった。
And remember, she said tatari, and tatari is a curse.
それはなぜか。理由は一つ。サトシ君はひなみ沢にはいたけれども、その心をお社様は許さなかったんだね。サトシ君は自問自答を何度も繰り返した挙句にほら、サトシ君アルバイトをしてるでしょ。サトコちゃんが欲しがったあの大きなぬいぐるみは10万円くらいするもんね。サトシ君はサトコちゃんの誕生日までにその額を稼ごうとしている。
How much would that be today? Let's see. I think it was 1982, right? The yen price back then, if I go check, in around summer, let's say May, it was 240 yen to USD. So, it would be this. About 400 bucks for a teddy bear. That's insane.
でもほら、考えてみて。それだけのお金があったら、後先を考えなくていいなら、どこか遠くへ逃げ出す十分な費用になりうるんだよ。サトシ君は無意識のうちにね、サトコちゃんを捨てて、どこか遠くへ逃げ出すお金に使ってしまいたいって。それはサトシ君にとってはこの上なく罪深いこと。でもさっきみーちゃんが指摘したように、サトコちゃんの存在自体がサトシ君の負担になってるのは事実。サトシ君だってバカじゃないもん。兄として認めたくなかっただけで、サトコちゃんが負担になっていることにはちゃんと気づいていた。だからサトシ君は葛藤してるんだよ。 自分は妹を喜ばせるためのお金を貯めるためにバイトをしているつもりだけれども、それは自分の心を騙しているだけで、本当は自分が逃げ出すためのお金を作るためにバイトしてるんじゃないかって。
Yeah, because once he has the money, he could just leave, right?
私は逃げ出すべきじゃないと思う。逃げ出したってサトシ君は多分一生後悔する。お社様だってそれを分かってるからサトシ君にこうして警告してくれているの。サトシ君の心にサトコちゃんを見捨てるなんて悪魔のささやきが早く聞こえなくなるといいんだけども。サトシ君は綿流しの数日後だっけのサトコちゃんの誕生日にプレゼントを間に合わせるため今、
Yeah.
いろいろなアルバイトに精を出してる。
It's like 2 days after.
心も体も追い詰めてる。そんな苦境がきっとサトコちゃんの誕生日を境に終わるんだって信じて。サトシ君は今もお社様のたたりに苛まれている。サトコちゃんを守るか見捨てるかの天秤の狭間に立たされながらね。
Torrential rain didn't seem to want to stop. It kept pouring down on the galvanized iron roof, producing a loud noise. Yet in the shack, it felt completely silent. What the hell was Anna talking about? I couldn't grasp even half of what she was saying. The only thing I had figured out is that Satoshi was struggling, confused, and in lots of pain. He's suffering from a Yashiro-sama's curse? And then has experienced that before? The Watanagashi festival was right around the corner. Oyashiro-sama's curse had struck 3 years in a row. There was no guarantee that it wouldn't strike a 4th time. Satoshi was subject to Oyashiro-sama's curse even now? Was he going to skip town? Was he going to be the next victim of Oyashiro-sama's curse? Either way, he might disappear forever. Could I do something to prevent it? If I didn't do anything, it would all come to a hopeless end. And I started feeling a sense of dread. I didn't buy the crazy story Irena told me, but if something really was happening to Satoshi, which might bring about some kind of an end, I couldn't help feeling scared. It's true, isn't it? My instinct is always correct. I decided to contact Mion despite the danger. Mion got upset at first, but she had to listen to me.
お姉、サトシ君のことだけど、どういうことになってるの？
最近だいぶ険しい様子なんだよ。うかつに声もかけられない雰囲気。
何それ？声をかけられないからサトシ君がどういう状況になってるかよく分かってないってこと？
ごめん。
お姉、キンキンにまた入れ替わる機会を設けてほしいの。
うん、それはもちろん構わないよ。でも最近はちょっと綿流しのお祭りの打ち合わせの絡みで日程の調整が難しいんだよ。何？
I'm gonna go to school in your
ま
place.
たバイト？
私、
Oh.
南沢の学校へ行く。
Oh no. And then chapter end? Oh my god. Just throw a cliffhanger, why don't you, huh? Oh, it is the chapter end. My god. Alright, let's view the new tips. God, that one was a really creepy one. With Rena just coming out of nowhere and giving us the cold glare. Anyway, notebook page 21. Why don't I relate my encounter with that creepy girl in the rain? Her name is Rena Ryugu. Her real first name is Reina. I have no idea what kind of girl she really is. One thing is certain, she has no relationship to the Sonoseki family. She has no relationship to the 3 families as a whole either. The Ryugu family used to live in Hinamizuwa, but then they moved to Ibaraki. That was before she went to elementary school. They returned to Hinamizawa some years later. Mind you, like, She came back like after 5th grade or something. Something along those lines. Rena said she came back because Oyashiro-sama told her to. I don't know what that means. She said it was the curse of Oyashiro-sama. Actually, give me 1 second. That Oyashiro-sama had stalked her. I think that was probably a hallucination, but Satoshi had been interested in that experience. She said that Satoshi was also experiencing Oyashiro-sama's curse. Satoshi told her that he was being followed by some unknown existence. She was surprised to learn that Rena had the same experience before. What is Oyashiro-sama's curse? Why did Rena and Satoshi have a similar experience? I believe that means that somebody put them under surveillance. Somebody must be spying on the next victim of the curse. Since Rena and Satoshi both blindly believed in Oyashiro-sama's curse, they interpreted it as Oyashiro-sama's presence. If paranoia kicked in, they'd feel as if they were experiencing a paranormal phenomena. Judging from what Rena said, it seemed that Satoshi had been put on surveillance since long before the Watanagashi. So, one question comes to mind. Why? Why were they watching Rena? I'm assuming that the surveillance was placed on a victim-to-be of that year. If so, I don't understand why Rena went through it. Why do they watch her even though she was living so far away? If she was considered somebody who abandoned the village, I could understand, but she didn't fall victim in the end. Maybe she was forgiven because she came back to Hinamizawa. I guess she still knows something I don't. Right. And do remember, like, when Rena was having these experiences, she was sent to like a mental institution. And she kept telling the doctors like of her experience of having seen Oyashiro-sama and the like. But anyway, next one. Notebook 24. Or page 24. Satoshi looked terrible. When he went home, he had to mediate a fight between Satoko and their aunt. He became mentally exhausted. He went to work every day. He became physically exhausted. He no longer communicated with his classmates, so he either slept on his desk or was gone somewhere during lunch break. He used to be really gentle. It was painful to see him suffering like that. On top of all that, he was dealing with the curse of Oyashiro-sama. He must have been completely, totally, and absolutely exhausted. That curse was a form of surveillance by those planning to victimize Satoshi that year. That means that the other victim was in the same situation. Satoshi's aunt had also been watched. Did she notice any presence? What about the others? Did the victims of a previous incident also experience it? I need to investigate the facts in order to prove the curse on Satoshi was actually just surveillance. Is it surveillance? Paranoia? Or really the curse? Interesting. So, assuming that is Shion's notebook, Shion seems to think that Satoshi is currently under surveillance, and because of that, he's freaking the fuck out, right? And same with their aunt. She might also just be acting like a total bitch because maybe she's also going through paranoia. Or, I mean, mind you, her husband is an asshole because he's constantly cheating on her. He's actually living with a mistress right now, as we know. So that's already on her mind. She has nowhere to vent, so she vents by, throwing a tantrum over every little thing. Oh, the, clothes weren't put away in time. Oh, dinner wasn't made in this way. Or, oh, they didn't pick up the towels or whatever, right? Like, she throws a fucking bitch fit and just yells at Satoko, which then results in Satoshi being yelled at. Now, it could all just be that Oyashiro-sama really does exist. And there is a curse that kind of just comes around for those who want to leave the village. I mean, if you were in Satoshi's shoes, you would also be like, I want to get the fuck out of here, man. I don't want to have to deal with this shit every fucking day. Imagine getting home every single day and you had to be yelled at, like, by someone for hours on end. Because remember, like, Satoshi doesn't go to bed until, like, after midnight. So he's out all day, right? He has to wake up early to go to school. Then he has to, like, go through school, go to his part-time job, get home, and then mediate for, like, 6 hours. it would get exhausting. So you can't blame him for wanting to leave. So it's interesting. I mean, it could just be, he could just be hallucinating all this. He could actually just be super tired. Who knows? But I think this would be a good stopping point for tonight.